onwards to the third round. By round, I mean match of this entire tournament. And I'll be leading off my Raichu here as an alternative to my Charizard for the Shield Killer. I'll be honest here, I leave my Raichu against the Quagsire. I consider switching to Venusaur, but then I remember the fact that if I do swap, he's just going to swap into something and counter my Venusaur. So I decided to leave Raichu out here. Mudshot's not doing as much damage as I thought it would. And I was thinking somehow I could bait him to use one of his shields or two. I try to conserve my shields for myself, but I severely underestimate how much damage the Stone Edge will do. So at this point, I'm just pretty much sacking off my Raichu so I can get a free switch onto my Venusaur. Very ballsy of a play to make this early on, when that Raichu could be useful for later on, but I feel like by the time I seriously considered doing otherwise, it was too late. And that was certainly a long loading screen. I mean, I don't think either of us really lost any progress either way. So I'm able to even it up, get one of my Pokemon down for one of his, and even though he could probably switch into a counterplay, the ability to choose between using a Venusaur or a Charizard against a Venonat, one significantly stands out over the other. Like how much more damage that I'm doing. I probably don't even need to use any of my charge moves. I could probably conserve it and just use air slashes to finish it off. But I was hoping to just bait out a shield possibly, but he's smarter than that. He'll probably use up a shield now just because of how devastating it would be to get hit by a blast burn. And indeed I was right. And you think if I get enough to power up again, I'll use another. And I pretty much have to use a shield here because this Charizard is pretty much my best check against the Venusaur. And plus, he's down to his last Pokemon, so I don't really got anything to lose. I guess that's part of my thinking with going right for the Blast Burn here. So he is able to block that, and I'm unable to block his attack, but considering how weak I am, and that I'll be likely to go down to anything, I might as well have gone for the Blast Burn, just on the slight chance he overpredicted. Nevertheless, my Venusaur has enough health that I'm able to finish it off, and I got a distinct advantage in this match. Let's see if I do any better in round 2. Unfortunately, I do not have as good of a lead advantage as I did in the last match, and that might actually cost me just not having the right Pokemon out at the right time, because sure I could go to Charizard to counter it, but I'm afraid that he'll just switch into something to counter my Charizard, so I decided to try to take a middle ground with my Quagsire, but I severely underestimate the amount of damage that Silver One does. Plus, he can just switch to Venusaur, which is a severe hard counter. The big problem with using Quagsire in this is if your opponent has a grass type like a Venusaur, especially Venusaur with the Frenzy Plant, you pretty much can only switch Quagsire in if you already wasted your opponent's switch and they have to wait on the timer in order to switch again, because otherwise you're pretty much guaranteed to immediately be greeted with a Venusaur the moment you switch to your Quagsire. And I really tried to be overzealous there, just not using my shield, thinking I could take the hit better, trying to predict his shields, and I just really want him to use up some of his shields, any of his shields. I mean, I took out the Venusaur, so it's pretty much the same result. I'm able to get one last Dragon Claw off before my Charizard goes down, but he knows better. He's not using his shields because he knows I have a distinct disadvantage. Being down to my last Pokemon, I'm forced to use my shield, and unfortunately because this Mantine has Aerial Ace, and probably Wing Attack, I don't really think my Venusaur stands a chance, especially because he still has 2 shields to take the Frenzy Plants I send his way. So my only method to possibly defeat him is with my Fast Move, and there's no way I can do that much damage, so I'm just going to fall to an Aerial Ace. Well, at least I still have a chance to pull a victory in the 3rd round. I guess at this point I finally pull up the team preview, so I should do this more often. But for that screenshot, you can at least see what I have to work with. Maybe it helps justify some of my more weird decisions. Because I have to prepare for a full team of 6. At any time, he could bring out any of those 6 Pokemon for his team of 3. So I feel like there's a lot of mind games involved in PvP. Because there's a possibility that your opponent could use the same thing if it worked for them, but they could also be thinking that you're going to swap up your game and swap a Pokemon to try to counteract your thought. And like, you can see how I could easily overthink this process. And like, I'm gonna just do the safe play and just swap over to my Venusaur and try to take out this Quagsire. Honestly, if I did that right from the beginning, I'd be a lot better off. I was just worried about the whole switch and then he switches into a counter. So I'm kind of up in a mirror match. It's not really looking too well for me because I'm in distinct disadvantage of health. Still, I'm going to block an attack because I just got enough for this Sludge Bomb. And it would feel like a waste if I didn't at least pull off one Sludge Bomb before my Venusaur goes down. Like how much damage that did. That almost justifies the use of the shield. Obviously, though, I'm not going to use a shield this time because... Yep. And it's not looking too good for me. We are even on Pokemon, but he has a distinct shield advantage, and my Charizard is already partly weakened. So I'm trying to go in this Raichu to finish off the Venusaur to give myself enough power to deal with whatever he's got up next. And I definitely get overzealous just trying to do anything I can to make him waste a shield. And I don't know if he's just smarter than that or what, because it's like, I should have just gone for the Wild Charge, but I really was assuming that they were going to use a shield, just like how I thought I could take that Silver Wind a little bit better. I mean, we're down to this last Pokemon. I actually forgot that we're already down to this last Pokemon. That's probably justifies some of the actions I took against it. I'll admit there were some questionable plays there, but we were able to pull it through in the end. Match 4 of the Rainbow Cup Tournament. And it's an uphill battle right from the start. First impression might give you the impression that I may have an advantage because grass versus water. But there's also a factor of flying versus grass. And she has the distinct advantage because she can do super effective damage against my Venusaur, but I can't do super effective damage against it. So I do switch my Quagsire, but then there's the whole issue. And this is why it was an uphill battle from the start. The moment I switch to Quagsire, people counter with their Venusaur. I feel so bad because it makes Quagsire look so bad because every time it comes out it dies. But it's just that Quagsire is so good that you just pretty much need to bring a counter for it and keep it with you at all times. Otherwise, it could wreck your end of the field. As you may see a little bit later on with me foolishly trying to do a Ditto Mash against this Venusaur. I mean, I think in hindsight, I'm already in a situation where I lose, so I don't really regret what I'm doing here, because I don't really got a better option from what I can see. Because I had to switch in order to not die to the Mantine, and then, as you can see in the corner there, I only just now got the ability to switch, and I have no Pokemon to switch to. And now the Quagsire can just wreck my shot because it has Stone Edge. I'm double weak against Rock-type moves. Best I can do is use Dragon Claws to stall out his shields, which is nice. But also I'm forced to use Dragon Claws as my only attack because I'm pretty sure that Quagsire quad resists fire types. And actually, when I think more about it, I think it only just normally resists. But that's still bad. Now, even with all my veteran experience with Pokemon, Rock and Ground are so similar that I'll admit I do get tangled up between the two every now and then. Ack. Hopefully round 2 will go a little better though. And as you can see, this is what I had to work with. I do have good counters for the team. I just didn't bring the right ones. Now that you see what I'm working against, it makes a bit more sense why I would bring my Raichu to this match, because between that Mantine and a couple other opportunities, there's a good chance to actually use Raichu. Unfortunately, I got probably the one thing I don't want to use Raichu against. Another freaking Raichu. Unfortunately, I'm stuck in the whole Quagsire conundrum where if I switch first, then I'm pretty much out of luck because my opponent can just switch to whatever they want and I got nothing to do about it. So I decided to just wait it out, try to use as many Brick Breaks as I can, hoping that I can bait out at least one of his shields along the way, and just see how much damage I can do. Brick Break, I'm pretty sure is not that great of a move, but it'll get the job done, especially compared to an actual electric attack against a Raichu. Or so I thought. Ouch! Maybe I should have just been doing wild charges in the first place. Again, though, there was the whole concept of trying to bait out my opponent's shields, but they weren't going for it. Unfortunately, it does seem like I'm at a distinct disadvantage. However, I am able to tie it back up, and my Venusaur is doing pretty good work. I do like the fact that I'm going up against an Azurill, because at least I can make a good chunk of damage on it with Razor Leaf. In hindsight, I probably could have gone for Sludge Bomb, because I forgot that Fairy was weak against poison in the heat of the moment. This seemed a little odd, but it was another case of my opponent using the shield, but just not showing up. Obviously, I want to block that. And thankfully, even though my opponent still has full shields, I can still make a good chunk of work against this Azurill, just with my Razor Leaf alone. Probably the one case where having Razor Leaf over his other quick move worked to my advantage. So we're stuck to 1-1. Thankfully, my last Pokemon is a Charizard here. And considering I still have a shield, I'm pretty much guaranteed the victory. I do go for a Dragon Claw, just in case he wants the shield, or she. Sorry, I guess he's my default pronoun. I will work on that. And thankfully for me, I'm able to bait out the last shield, and use mine to prevent possibly dying to the Sludge Bomb. Either way, I don't think it'll matter, because I don't even get a chance to Blast Burn. The Aerial Ace, I forget exactly what my quick move was, but I know it's the one flying move that Charizard has. That carried me through the whole thing. And it'd probably be better if I changed that over to a fire move, but I don't know, I just like having the diversity option. Just in case I'm in a situation where I need a flying over a fire type. Plus, I think it's leftover from the last time I've used this Charizard in a competitive match. Oh yeah, because the Kingdom Cup was the last one I did, and there was fighting types all over there. And while I did have plenty of charge TMs, quick TMs to switch back, flying and fire served very similar purposes, so I didn't see the reasoning to change. In hindsight, I might have done better against Fortress if I swapped over to a fire quick move. And there goes Quagsire doing his Quagsire thing. Me being foolish and thinking I could at least bait out a shield before I go down. Thankfully, when you see a Quagsire, you bring out a Venusaur, and it's history. This time, I'm prepared for the Mantine, having my Raichu in the back there. I may not be doing a lot of damage now, but Thundershock is special in the sense that it caters more towards powering up your charge moves over than doing direct damage to your opponent. So I'm already ready to go for a wild charge. And it may seem kind of ballsy for me to go for a Brick Break against a Fairy type, but I'm really hoping I can bait out a shield. Just like that, and at least take advantage of the fact that my opponent switched. I can't believe I actually had the audacity to go for 2 Brick Breaks in a row. Sure enough, my opponent caught on. Surely this mad lad wouldn't go for a 3rd Brick Break in a row, would he? Well, I'm not going to go for a 3rd Brick Break in a row, but I am going to try to play some mind games. Go for my Wild Charge, even though he just blocked an attack. And it worked to my advantage, because I think I'm actually going to be able to take out this Azurill before I go down at the very least. And I'm about to die anyways. I don't know if I had enough for a Wild Charge. Plus the Wild Charge would be overkill, so I was hoping to at least waste this last shield. Sure enough, I did. And now it's all up to my Venusaur. Which sucks, because that was my last shield. And we all remember last time I was in a Venusaur vs Mantine setup. Thankfully, my opponent has a lot less health than before, no shields, and I have a Frenzy Plant ready to go. Yeah, kind of underestimating how much Aerial Ace does when it's super effective damage. It may be only a 3-bar move from what I recall, but that doesn't mean it won't devastate against things that it's strong against. Apparently. And now we come to the final round of this whole Rainbow Cup meta. I actually consider this a disadvantage, and I want to switch, but I'm also very afraid of the Quagsire effect. And then I remembered how devastating Power Up Punch can be, and it's like, it is worth sacking my Venusaur off to assure that this thing doesn't start setting up Power Up Punches. Actually, that's a bad thing. This was exactly what I was afraid of, switching to Venusaur, only to have a Charizard completely annihilate me. And honestly, I was able to get a good chunk of damage off. I'm actually surprised my opponent didn't switch even sooner to try to preserve that Poliwrath, so it could Power Up Punch wreck my team for the rest of the way. But we're here. And this is actually a tough choice. I could go with my Quagsire's obvious hard counter, but with how weak it is, I would just finish it off, and if it had a Venusaur, my Quagsire would go down too. So I go for the Ditto match with the hopes that I could just finish off the Charizard and be in a situation... Ooh, boy! How did I even survive that? I mean, at least I take the Charizard out. But man, no. Oh my god, this Charizard is dead. I'm stuck with the Quagsire, and this thing is just gonna Power Up Punch wreck me, isn't it? I mean, like, I think I'm trying to preserve my shields if I have any left. Just try to... At least on the first one, because I know the second Power Up Punch is going to be even stronger. And I'm not going to use my Stone Edge, because it's a fighting type. It resists that move. And at least I'm able to finish off the Poliwrath just barely, but how could I possibly take care of the last Pokemon that he has? I'm going for a blind shot to try to do the attack before he can attack me. And of course it's a Venusaur. Of course! Quagsire once again falls to a Venusaur. So that was actually a very unfortunate first round. At least I can just see what my opponent has to work with. Try to build a team that at least sort of hard counters what I gotta work with. I just get the feeling that this is going to be a very rough match for all parties involved. Well, except my opponent. My opponent seems to just be running wild. I smartened up this time leading off of my Venusaur against his Poliwrath, so now he either has to switch or sack off the Poliwrath. Either solution is a-okay with me. And because I resist the attack, I can like save a shield on this first Power-Up Punch. And maybe I can even take out the Poliwrath before I even get my charge move off, preserving that energy for whatever he decides to send out next. Or if I do decide to switch right away, I can have it for when I come back out with said Venusaur. And once again, I'm worried about the Quagsire effect, where I switch into my Quagsire and it gets immediately hard counter. And my opponent must have misplayed there, because there isn't really a good reason to go into the Venusaur against my Charizard. Unless he really wanted to save that Charizard for something later on. But I think I recall my opponent talking about like misclicking, or maybe I'm just confusing it with myself again, because I feel like I misclick way too often in Pokemon Go in these battles for some particular reason. Either way though, it's my 2 versus his 1. I have a Dragon Claw that will hopefully waste whatever shield he has left, if not, do a good chunk of neutral damage against it. And I am so sorry, I did not learn. Now that I'm actually watching this in Pulse, and know that Blast Burden does a huge chunk more damage against the Charizard, even though it resists it, I am definitely going to keep that in mind going forward. But then again, that Dragon Claw just did a whole chunk more. It's probably just because this Charizard that I have is not min-max. It was made before I started paying close attention to the whole IV spread. I've seen this guy quite a few times in previous tournaments, so he probably is well experienced with the whole IV game involved in the PvP meta. So that's probably part of the reason why his Charizard performs significantly better than mine, because honestly, in the grand scheme of PvP Charizards, mine is trash. I love it because it's mine, but it's trash compared to all the other ones. Man, that was a tangent. I guess point being, I should pay more close attention to how much my resistant moves do versus my neutral game. Because, yeah, Dragon Claw is neutral damage, but it's also a 3-bar move. So I guess it could be possible for Dragon Claw to do less damage than a resisted Blast Burn, just because of how devastating Blast Burn is. And I think the big thing about this match against my opponent, it all comes down to the lead. I feel like win or loss could be decided right in the beginning on who has the better Pokemon advantage to start off with. It's kind of a gripe I kind of have with the current meta in general, but it's not the worst thing in the world. You could use mind games or outplay your opponent, or just take more time and energy to invest in raising your team to get around the whole having a disadvantage to start off with. But it does annoy me personally how many times I feel like a match has been win or loss solely based on what Pokemon I lead off with. Especially when you're going up against a possible of 6 Pokemon. This is something you don't see, guys. I have 6 Pokemon that I can use out of my tree. He has 6 Pokemon I can use out of my tree. None of us know for sure what Pokemon we're going to have against the other person. Okay, I'm going to put a pin on that, because this is actually a pretty exciting development we got going on here. After that Charizard Ditto, which honestly I'm still amazed I won, I just left my Charizard out there to do as much damage as it could before it fell, then went to my Venusaur to finish off the Poliwrath, and now we're working on the Venusaur. I could just leave it in here. The neutral damage that Sludge Bomb does is pretty effective. However, it's the only thing I have to resist this Venusaur's attacks as well, so I was a bit concerned leaving it out. I think what really saved my butt here was preserving my shields all the way to its last Pokemon. Regardless, I do go into my Quagsire just because I know if it does get a Frenzy Plant off, it'll be more dispensable. However, I actually am able to do a significant amount of damage to it. It resisted the Sludge Bomb, but Quagsire actually defeated a Venusaur. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pretty sure that's the only time that will ever happen in the history of my channel, if not the history of competitive PvP. Now, before I go, I do want to talk a little bit more about this whole preference I have with battling formats. And that's kind of part of why I feel there's too much of a random element to PvP. Granted, there was a time long ago when the main series game had a meta very similar where you had 6 Pokemon and you picked 3. But ever since I was introduced to the 6v6 format in Pokemon battling, it's always been my preference, because you know exactly what your opponent's going to be using before the match begins. You can prepare your lead accordingly. You don't feel like you're cheated out because you just didn't have that one Pokemon that would have worked well against what your opponent has. Because in theory, since you have to work with your entire team, they're all out there. And if you don't have a good counter, that's your own fault for not building a proper team. I think this will do it for the Rainbow Cup. Thank you all for tuning in, and thank you for your patience. I know this is going to be really late. Rainbow Cup has been 2 cups behind before I even get the team preview out. And I know that people who are going to be interested in these types of videos are looking for the most recent meta, because at least a chunk of those people are probably looking for ideas for their own team. I'm going to try to work on a solution. Unfortunately, just with how busy I get, I prefer to edit things in order, at least until I get my computer a bit more organized. But once I do get caught up in the editing, I don't mind exploring ideas like Like if I have some videos from a cup from 2 months ago versus a video ready from the meta going on currently, giving that priority and saving the older videos for a day I need content but don't have it. However, I do want to get a bunch of other things organized before I start looking more into those plans. As I'm recording this, I just got back from Con Bravo, so I put some time aside to actually organize the photos that I took from there. This was also right around the time I was finally getting around to announcing my Celeste Let's Play, and I also got the podcast on this whole balancing scale too. So by the time this comes out, I'll be a lot more organized, but as I'm recording it now, I just gotta play catch up from vacation, essentially. If you are curious about the various things I do on the internet, you can check out my website, which is always in the video description if you don't see a link for it up in the video right now. Not only does the homepage have a good indication of my schedule for each month, it also has various tabs that allow you to explore the various content I do and where to find it. And while I'm making announcements, I think it's finally safe to properly say that I am going to be shooting for a PvP video every Friday from now on. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with the other content I make in regards to Pokemon Go, but I think I have enough of a backlog in Pokemon Go content, especially by the time this goes up and I go to other tournaments, that as long as I get enough ahead, that I will safely be able to upload a video each week for you guys. So feel free to subscribe to the channel to look forward to stuff like that. Thanks again for tuning in, and hope to see you all for the next one. Take care.